Are we alone in the universe?
With more than 100 billion galaxies in the observable universe, and at least 500 billion planets in the Milky Way alone, don't you think we should have found something by now? Even if a tiny percentage of those billions of planets hosted intelligent life, there would be tens of thousands of extraterrestrial civilizations out there. Yet, we haven't seen any. Where is everybody? We keep wondering what's taking them so long to come. But what if I told you that even the friendliest of all aliens could wipe out our entire civilization for good? This is What If, and here's what would happen if aliens visited us tomorrow. We tend to apply our theories to the rest of the universe. We expect aliens to come for a visit, even though we ourselves haven't traveled out of our own neighborhood yet. We just believe that they've had so much more time for technological progress to make space travel possible. So here they are, with their shiny alien spaceship roving above our heads. What would we do?
So, what happens if aliens arrived tomorrow? Well, we'd be facing the unknown, unpredictable, and possibly unstoppable forces. To find this kind of power on Earth, we'd have to go back to the gods from Norse mythology. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Uh-oh, here comes Loki. This is about to get serious. Oh no, he didn't. He wouldn't dare. You want in on some of this action? Well, then you need to download this game right now. Imagine battling gods, monsters, and tricksters from Nordic mythology right on your phone. That's right, Raid Shadow Legends lets you play with exclusive legendary characters. Loki the Deceiver, Thor Feyhammer, Odin Feyfather, and Freya Fateweaver. This is a special event called the Asgard Divide. It's running from August 21st to November 22nd, giving you the chance to collect these powerful champions and bring them into Raid's world of Teleria. You can get the legendary Loki the Deceiver for free by logging into Raid for 7 days between now and October 23rd. Keep logging in for another 7 days to unlock even more rewards. The other Norse-themed champions can be earned through in-game activities, and don't miss the Event Dungeon, a time-limited dungeon where you'll face off against Odin Feyfather. My favorite champion to fight in this battle is Thor Feyhammer. Just watch the tremendous damage you can cause with the Hammer of Heaven. Download Raid by using the link in the description or by scanning the What If QR code and get an exclusive starter pack with an epic champion, Tagore from the Orc faction. Keep playing, reach level 15, and you'll get another starter pack that includes Epic Knight Errant. You won't get these bonuses anywhere else. Come find me under the name What If Guy. Join my clan, the What If Warriors, and we'll see you in battle. Remember to click the link in the description or scan the QR code to get exclusive bonuses and dominate the Norse gods with Raid Shadow Legends. Join the Asgard Divide today.
As far as we know, no government on this planet has any sort of alien greeting party planned if aliens suddenly showed up on the horizon. Just try to keep cool. Say the aliens happen to be very polite and sent us a signal before invading our planet's personal space. Well, you wouldn't know it right away. Not until several observatories maintained by different organizations verified that signal. Yep, that's it. Aliens are here, now you know. You got this shocking news from your TV.
NASA officially confirms
An alien ship detected in the solar system, not alone in the universe.
Agencies and countries around the world would be working together, quickly trying to assess the level of threat. They'd summon experts in linguistics, psychology, combat, and biology, and have them attempt to make first contact with the aliens. Groups of experts would record all interactions to analyze simple alien gestures and auditory reactions. Those would help to decide whether aliens came in peace or they intend to do some serious damage. Some people might believe that religious leaders should do all the talking. Something's telling me that aliens didn't learn our languages in school, so good luck to anyone trying to reach out to them. while the world's most intelligent people were busy trying to interpret the aliens' intentions to the best of their ability, you would be, wait, aren't you curious to know what the aliens look like? Some evolution experts agree that things like proteins and DNA are the same no matter where in the universe you're from. If that's true, alien evolution would be close to that of humans. They'd have binocular vision with eyes located close to the brain. Just like us, they'd be based on land and have a minimum of 2 legs for mobility and 3 fingers so that they could handle tools. Still, if some of our own life forms look like this, try to picture something coming from another planet. Meanwhile, on Earth, while governments were busy figuring out the action plan, the media would be keeping you informed. You'd be advised to stay indoors and wait for further instructions. It'd be hard to filter out what's legitimate news and what isn't, but try not to fall for fake end-of-the-world news on Facebook and keep calm. At least make an effort to give up the urge to pack up your belongings and head for the hills. At the same time, the governments and scientific experts would be sharing information about alien interactions. From here, the events could unfold in a few different ways. First, we may not get any auditory or visual response. Nothing at all. This could mean anything from the alien spacecraft doesn't have any aliens on board to the aliens are waiting for their alien backup to fry us up. Another possibility is that aliens responded and tried to communicate with no weapons involved. I can't speak to their possible intentions. For all we know, they may want to get rid of us and keep the Earth to themselves. Thanks to the language barrier, our interactions might not be going well. Tensions would begin to rise. We'd be screwed. Considering that these beings had the technology to travel to Earth, it's likely that they also had the capability to develop some very, very advanced weaponry. Civilians would most likely be hitting the panic button as hard as possible. Meanwhile, governments would put their nuclear weapons on standby. That would be our best and most destructive weapon against them. Or so we think. It may turn out that the aliens have adverse reactions to things on Earth that we're all accustomed to. If, say, their skin melted upon contact with water, then defending ourselves against them would be simple. I'm not saying aliens would necessarily bring doom upon the Earth. They may not mean us any harm at all. But if some hazardous microorganisms from outer space hitched a ride with them and made it into our world, we humans might have no natural immunity to those extraterrestrial microbes, and they could slowly wipe our species off the planet. On the other hand, if aliens weren't coming here to make friends, we'd be destroyed long before we got a chance to offer peace between intelligent beings. In any case, we aren't ready for a visit from interplanetary travelers. We'd better get prepared for first contact.
What if the moon was more than just a lifeless rock? Under that bright light, it could be hiding an alien civilization. When did this alien life begin on the moon? What would these lunar dwellers breathe? And what would our neighbors look like? This is What If. And here's what would happen if aliens lived on the moon. Until Galileo showed up on the scene with his telescope, all we knew about the moon was that it was bright and shiny. While we certainly know more now, its origins are still a mystery. Yeah, we still don't know how the moon became, well, the moon. Some scientists think a chunk of the Earth broke off about 4.5 billion years ago after a violent collision with another planet. All the debris eventually came together to form this body. And the moon landing in 1969 did more than inspire humanity to reach the stars. It made this rock something real to humans everywhere. But we didn't stay for long, so what if the astronauts missed something big up there? The lunar surface is a rough place to live. Without an atmosphere, there's no protection from the sun's radiation, or even a way to keep oxygen on the ground. But maybe it wasn't always like this. After that piece of Earth broke off, microscopic life like cyanobacteria could have survived in this harsh environment. We call this the panspermia theory, the idea that life can be transferred by meteoroids, asteroids, or even spaceships. Considering the moon orbits us in the habitable zone, there could have been a time billions of years ago when it had fresh water. And volcanic activity could have released the gases needed to sustain life. So why isn't there life there now? Well, who's to say there isn't? When these conditions existed, the moon could have incubated life for hundreds of millions of years before humans existed. While dinosaurs roamed our planet, the moon could have been teeming with life that would look stranger than some of those behemoths. The moon's magnetic field is a fraction as powerful as the Earth's, so over millions of years, solar winds stripped away all of its atmosphere. With nothing to protect it, life on the surface would have to adapt to survive the sun's intense rays. On Earth, melanin in our skin protects us from ultraviolet rays, but instead of having a darker skin tone, the moon aliens could have developed new colors. Carotenoids are organic pigments found in vegetables like carrots, and they contain cells that protect against skin cancer. If the aliens evolved to have carotenoids instead of melanin, they might have tough orange skin that would resist the dangerous UV rays around them. And the differences don't end there. Since the moon's gravity is only 1/6 of that on Earth, these aliens could get around by jumping or gliding. But without an atmosphere holding oxygen on the surface, what would these creatures breathe? Well, even with an atmosphere that's only 1/100th as thick as ours, that doesn't mean that life can't exist. Recently, scientists have found a parasite that doesn't need oxygen to live. Maybe over millions of years, these aliens could have evolved in the same way, without breathing, well, anything. Now, while this diversity of life might exist on the surface, you couldn't say the same for the lunar oceans. I mean, if they existed. While the average ocean on Earth goes down 3.7 kilometers, the moon's seas would only have a depth of 1 kilometer. There's not much that could be found in these waters. But if life did exist on the moon, how would that have changed our history? Well, if these aliens had evolved before humanity, they might have visited us before we landed on the moon. And if they had waited until after the space race, the increasing tensions of the Cold War might never have happened. Instead, humans could have united in fear over an invasion from a superior life form. The militaries around the globe would have deployed countermeasures to assess the threats these visitors pose. And as scientists and politicians tried to communicate with our celestial neighbors, everyone else would be hunkered down, bracing for the worst. You know, sharing our corner of the solar system with a much more advanced civilization might be overwhelming, but it's either that or an all-out war. And considering how much more evolved these aliens are, we might want to think of a peaceful solution.
But before we get to that, do you want more What If? Well, then you should check out the What If Explorers Club over on Patreon. For just a couple bucks a month, you can get access to exclusive videos, ad-free episodes, and behind-the-scenes content, and more. We also have a private Discord where you can pitch your what-if ideas. So if you want more content like this and you want to give your support so we can keep making the best content possible, then become an explorer today.
Is intelligent life out there in the universe? Well, with scientists discovering new exoplanets every year, yeah, the possibility only grows stronger. Will we discover alien life in the future? Or will they discover us? In this episode, we take a look at the multiple possibilities that could happen if aliens are out there, from what they might look like to the incredible technology they might control. Let's start with a scenario where aliens come to invade our home. Day 1. The aliens have officially invaded Earth, and they're not here to make friends. Many scientists theorize that if alien life showed up on Earth, it'd be because they want something from us. Space travel, as we know it, is incredibly expensive and time-consuming, so if an alien race traveled to planet Earth, they wouldn't be doing it to shake hands and have a chat over coffee. They'd probably be here to mine precious resources that they don't have in their galaxy. Or they might be coming to perform experiments on us and learn more about the human race. On a cultural level, the discovery of alien life could change everything. Humans would question what they know about religion, culture, and philosophy. The good news is that one of humanity's biggest questions would finally be answered. Yes, aliens are real. But what happens when they invade us? Well, we're not sure totally what their intentions are just yet. This is only day 1. Over the course of this video, we'll keep checking in and seeing where this alien invasion could go. But before we get to our full-on alien invasion, what would these extraterrestrials look like? Well, there are a ton of different theories, from simple microorganisms to intelligent life that could take over entire galaxies. In this scenario, we have a couple of options scientists have theorized we might possibly discover one day. Let's explore, starting with the simple and getting increasingly weird. This is Subject 004, and it looks oddly familiar. This is bacteria found on Earth. Wait, what? I thought we were talking about aliens. Well, some scientists theorize that life found on Earth might be extraterrestrial. Earth was hit with thousands of meteors 4 billion years ago, and attached to these meteors may have been tiny bits of bacteria that were the building blocks for the life we have on Earth. Next is Subject 021. This alien looks a lot like us for some reason. Boring, yeah, I know, but some scientists think it could exist. We're discovering more and more exoplanets similar to Earth every year, and the only intelligent life that we're confident that exists in the universe is us. So if you have a planet that's similar to Earth with similar conditions, well, it makes sense that life on that exoplanet could have evolved similar to humans. But aliens might not be organic at all. What if aliens are artificial intelligence? Introducing Subject 042. This is an extraterrestrial being that happens to be a highly intelligent robot. Hey, what do advanced societies, space colonies, and interstellar travel all have in common, other than them all being featured in sci-fi movies? Well, they all take highly intelligent minds and a ton of hard work to pull off. And what better way to accomplish this than to put a bunch of hard-working, highly intelligent robots on it? Ones that never get tired and keep learning at an advanced rate. Artificially intelligent aliens are a possibility for a few reasons. First, they wouldn't be limited to the pesky limitations that we organic life forms might have. AI wouldn't have to worry about oxygen, food, sleeping, or anything else that might get in the way of building a galactic empire. They also wouldn't need to worry about building on a planet with an atmosphere. They could bypass the need to breathe, as well as any safety concerns. They could expand to planets that we weakling humans might not even dream suitable for life. If the AI doesn't need to worry about things like their planet being in the Goldilocks zone, well, theoretically they could populate any celestial body they want. But this also assumes that the AI would have the same epic desires as humans.
who knows how they would want to spend their time? They may hibernate for billions of years and wait for certain stars to explode. They might just want to keep to themselves and not make a massive impact on the galaxy or interact with other species. Okay, the final alien we're theorizing about is Subject 339. This one looks a little bit more unusual than what we're used to because it's composed of silicone instead of carbon. The checkboxes for life that silicone needs completely differs from what we're used to. On a molecular level, this type of life is much more unstable than carbon, but it can also live at extremely low temperatures and high atmospheric pressures. It could also look quite different from other life forms. These aliens might appear to be rock-like or be crystallized in some form. But regardless of what they look like, they'd be bizarre. Okay, now let's go back to Earth and check in on our alien invasion. Day 30. The aliens have come equipped with several advanced pieces of tech. Using wormhole technology, they've been able to move across the universe in seconds. Earth is now full of floating megastructures, far beyond our current technological capabilities. Over the last 30 days, the aliens have been slowly and methodically taking over parts of the world, attacking our infrastructure, governments, and cities, all in hopes of taking over our planet and mining our resources. Our most powerful militaries have been working together to counterattack the invading aliens, using our most advanced technologies in hopes of fighting them off. Up in the sky, more alien megastructures appear. Massive structures are being assembled that can mine and terraform our planet with ease. Now, before all this happened, scientists had been working for decades in hopes of finding alien life. Let's take a look back to figure out how we got here. There have been hundreds, if not thousands, of fake alien reports and sightings, from people saying UFOs are in their backyard to fake alien corpses being presented as real. One of the most notable events happened in late 2023. Self-described UFO expert Jaime Maussan showed what looked to be 2 alien specimens to the Mexican Congress. The corpses were shriveled up gray bodies with 3 fingers. Maussan claimed they were non-human, but experts quickly debunked these claims. Maussan showed up with spotty evidence, and it was revealed that the specimens were human, but may have been manipulated to look extraterrestrial. Another claim of alien life in 2023 was made by a former United States military intelligence officer. He said that the US government was in possession of some sort of UFO and a non-human pilot. However, NASA and government officials have since refuted the claims and said there was no evidence to back it up. Now, we can go back and forth on what's real and what's fake in these claims, but it's safe to say that there's no real and significant evidence that intelligent life is out there. At least not yet. But scientists are working hard to find some. One of the most likely methods of finding alien life is through the James Webb Telescope. Since 2021, this super telescope has been trying to find exoplanets across our galaxy. It has the ability to analyze the composition of the atmospheres on the exoplanets. It looks for things like oxygen, carbon dioxide, and methane, and if it happens to find these, that could be a good sign for potential alien life. Another option is a bit closer to home, in our own solar system. Scientists have been looking at Mars, as well as one of the moons of Jupiter, Europa, in hopes of finding life. This life would most likely appear in microbacterial form. Now, if we want to find more intelligent alien life, we could go the SETI route. The Search for Extraterrestrial Intelligence is a group of over 100 scientists who've been searching the universe for decades. They're using AI to scan the cosmos in hopes of finding out what's out there. Since 1960, SETI has been scanning the skies for radio signals that are different from the cosmic background noise. If they find something that isn't naturally occurring, well, it could indicate that it might be from an advanced civilization. But in our invasion scenario, we weren't the ones discovering the aliens. These aliens discovered us. Day 100. In the past 100 days, a full-on alien war has broken out. Militaries and even civilian fighters are battling this alien species, but no matter what we do, it's nearly impossible to stop them. Remember, these extraterrestrials were able to travel from a different galaxy to reach Earth, meaning they're highly intelligent and have some seriously advanced tech. They can terraform or wipe out entire cities with the push of a button. The one advantage humans might have in this case is our sheer number of troops that we could assemble. Since we're on our home turf, we'd have all 8 billion people to help fight back. We'd assume that this alien species likely traveled incredibly far and with less than 8 billion people, so we could beat them when it came to a sheer numbers game. But again, they have technology so advanced that we might not be capable of fighting back at all. Our best bet might be to retreat, go into hiding, and avoid the aliens as much as we can. Okay, we'll check back in on the alien invasion in a minute, but as we've been going through this scenario, I've been wondering, why haven't we found any aliens yet? With billions of stars and habitable planets, it seems that the probability of us finding intelligent life out there should be pretty high. Well, this is where the Fermi Paradox comes in. Developed by physicist Enrico Fermi, this paradox is about the idea that there's a high probability of extraterrestrial life out there. Well, then why haven't we found any? The Milky Way alone has billions of stars similar to our Sun, each of which could have many habitable planets. There's also billions of galaxies out there that are much older than ours, so if intelligent life, or any life at all, is common in outer space, well, there should be some that are more advanced than ours. In theory, they'd be able to travel across the universe and visit us on Earth. But we've yet to find any concrete proof of alien life existing. So, why? Well, one of the leading explanations is called the Great Filter Theory. This idea proposes a stage in civilization's development that's incredibly difficult for life to overcome. This stage could be several things, from civilizations needing to overcome all-out wars to being able to reach great technological heights. Now, if the civilization does pass this filter, then it could be an interstellar civilization, but the problem is we haven't seen or don't know of any civilization that's managed to pass it yet, leading us to think that there's something in the development of civilizations that prevents them from becoming an interstellar species. This could be war or famine or some sort of catastrophic destruction. Regardless of what it exactly is, it seems civilizations may be unable to cross this threshold, and now that brings us back to our alien invasion scenario. Day 300. What makes this alien species so terrifying is the fact that they've been able to cross the Great Filter. It's possible these aliens would have come from a highly advanced civilization, much older and much more experienced than ours. They've been through all sorts of potential extinction events, but have somehow managed to survive and become more advanced. And now they've been attacking and conquering Earth for nearly a year. Humans have done all they could, but with a society this advanced, it would be nearly impossible to win this fight. The aliens have been building more megastructures and mining more of our resources. Eventually, they'd take all they need from our planet and move on, potentially leaving humanity to live in a barren wasteland. But an alien encounter doesn't always need to end with a full-on invasion. The aliens could potentially be similar to humans. Maybe they're simply looking to explore and find new life forms. Maybe we could be a society that they simply want to observe and watch. And this is where the galactic zoo theory comes in. This theory proposes that extraterrestrials are so advanced that they want nothing to do with us, at least directly. They may see Earth and our solar system as a giant enclosed zoo, one that's full of different species for them to watch and observe. Think of the way we humans might think about ants. They're fun to watch and study in their colonies for short periods of time, but we'd never want to directly interact with them. We look at them as beneath us in terms of intelligence and what they have to offer. So that's how aliens might look at humanity. And knowing what an alien invasion could look like, well, I think I'd prefer it if the aliens sat and watched, as long as they remembered to like and subscribe.
Something is emerging from the Mariana Trench, and it does not belong on this planet. If aliens lived in the deepest place in the ocean, what would they look like? How would they communicate with one another? And what would happen if we dared to contact them? This is What If, and here's what would happen if there were aliens at the bottom of the Mariana Trench. There's a reason why the idea of aliens living at the bottom of the sea keeps popping up in popular culture. Many of us are far more afraid of what lies down there than whatever's looking down at us from up in space. After all, 80% of the ocean is still unmapped and unexplored. We have better maps of the Moon, Mars, and Venus than we do of our seafloor. The most mysterious part of our oceans is the Mariana Trench. Its deepest point, the Challenger Deep, stretches 11 kilometers down. The Mariana Trench is anything but a great vacation spot. No light is able to reach its bottom, and temperatures are just a few degrees above freezing. Not to mention its crushingly high water pressure. So, how could aliens survive the deepest spot in the ocean? The water pressure at the bottom of the Mariana Trench is over 1,000 times the atmospheric pressure that you're used to at sea level. This kind of pressure would crush anything, even the toughest deep-sea robots we've ever built. But some living things managed to adapt and thrive under such pressing conditions, like translucent snailfish and sea cucumbers. The Heidel snailfish, known as the deepest living fish, flourishes at depths of over 8 kilometers. Unlike you, deep-sea fish don't have pockets to store air in their bodies. That oxygen inside your lungs is what gives you the feeling of pressure whenever you take a dive. No air means this fish has a higher tolerance to the weight of all that water above it. Whatever aliens were lurking down below would share the same characteristic. Storing air just wouldn't be their thing. But what would they do for food? Well, it's likely they'd imitate their seafloor neighbors once again. Deep-sea creatures gorge on the decaying remains of microbes, algae, or animals from above. Our sunken ships might be their version of a surprise buffet. Any extraterrestrial life down at the pit of the trench would probably eat similar food. They'd burrow into the biggest carcasses they could find and consume what's left from the inside out, like a giant hagfish does. Or they might possess enormous mouths and expandable stomachs, allowing them to catch and digest large quantities of food as they move. And those big mouths of theirs would also be filled with long fangs pointed inward. This would enable them to catch and hold on to other deep-sea creatures or, any other prey that just so happens to dive a little too far from the surface. Hey, don't judge them. In a habitat as precarious as the Mariana Trench, aliens would need to capitalize on any and all sources of nutrition. They'd also have to go the extra mile in order to let one another know that they're out there in the pitch dark. That's because sunlight can only travel up to 1 kilometer into the ocean. Anywhere deeper than that, and you wouldn't be able to see a thing. So, how would our underwater aliens put the notice out that they're around? Well, 2 ideas: by sound and by light they produce themselves. Like fireflies, deep-sea creatures are able to produce and emit their own light, thanks to a process called bioluminescence. With it, aliens would be able to connect with each other through specific lighting patterns. For long-distance communication, they could send out sound waves across enormous distances in the water, like the humpback whale, who's able to sing in the Caribbean and be heard off the west coast of Ireland, 6,400 kilometers away. Now, what would first contact with this underwater species look like for us? Well, we'd have to get there first. We'd need a vessel strong enough to withstand the constantly intensifying pressure. The tiniest of cracks would squash you and your submarine faster than you can say human jam. Once down there, we'd have to take into account that living at the bottom of the sea would be like living on another planet. If aliens existed in the otherworldly depths of the Mariana Trench this entire time, they may not want to be friendly neighbors. And the darkness alone would make it difficult to locate and study our subjects. Before approaching these extraterrestrials, we'd have to assess their communication style first, slowly and patiently. We'd need to understand how they interact with their environment, too. That is, assuming they don't feel threatened by our presence and decide to do something about it. Trust goes both ways when you're trying not to be crushed or eaten in the name of science. Thousands of light years from Earth, there could be another planet hospitable to life. Kepler 69c. And you're about to travel to this alien world to see that life with your own eyes. What would it be like to make this epic journey so far across the universe? What kind of planet would you be likely to find upon arrival? And if you did discover life, what would it look like? This is What If, and here's what would happen if there's life on Kepler 69c. Located 2,383 light-years from Earth in the Cygnus constellation is a potential super-Earth. At least that's what it's often referred to as. Kepler 69c is an exoplanet about 1.7 times larger than our planet. And it could also be around 3.5 times more massive. But there's a catch. We don't really know if this planet is located within the habitable zone of its star. If it's too close, Kepler 69c would be too hot for liquid water to exist on its surface. If it's too far from its sun, well, then it would be nothing more than a frigid world. What we do know is that Kepler 69c orbits its star about 40% closer than Earth orbits the sun. And that could mean that it isn't actually a super Earth. It could be a super Venus. So, if you traveled all the way here, would you find life? Or a thick, scorching atmosphere boiling every drop of water on the planet? Before you begin your journey to Kepler 69c, there'd be one very important thing to keep in mind. It's far away, almost 600 times further away than Proxima Centauri, our closest neighboring star. Even if you could travel, say, 1% of the speed of light, you wouldn't get there anytime soon. At this speed, you could whip around Earth in just over 13 seconds, but to get to Kepler 69c, well, that would take you about 238,000 years. To even make this trip possible, you'd need a super advanced hibernation pod. You know, you don't want to grow too old and die before you could even get to your destination. Am I right? Well, hibernation technology that could help you sleep for over 200,000 years doesn't exist yet, but hey, this is what if. Anything's possible. By the time your ship makes its arrival, any life that may exist on Kepler 69c today could evolve or advance into something entirely different. Think about it this way. 300,000 years ago, humans were just beginning to create stone tools and spears. And look at you now, making a trip across the galaxy. Looking back at the planet you left behind, who knows what changes would happen to our human civilization during your trip? No matter what, it's way too late to turn around now. Based on the planet's distance from its star, we know that Kepler 69c receives a similar amount of sunlight as Venus. And despite being more massive than Earth, it has a relatively low density. All this means is that instead of metals, this rocky planet is made of silicate and carbonate minerals. That could make things a little complicated. You see, with all these minerals in the crust, Kepler 69c could have a really thick atmosphere. And to make matters worse, this atmosphere would be composed mostly of carbon dioxide. Uh-oh, did you choose the wrong super-Earth to travel to? Yeah, if Kepler 69c is anything like Venus, it would be a pretty hot planet. All because, similar to Venus, its clouds would trap the heat and create an extreme greenhouse effect. Kepler 69c's atmosphere would be caught in an endless cycle of getting thicker and hotter. But nobody said this world should be habitable for you. Oh no, once you took off your helmet, you'd instantly melt and suffocate. Like I said, life on this planet would be completely different from what you'd imagine. As you made your approach, you'd find surface temperatures as high as 475 degrees Celsius, and the atmospheric pressure would be over 90 times that of Earth at sea level. It would be like being 900 meters deep in the ocean, except you'd be on dry land. With conditions like this, you'd likely not find anything resembling an ocean here. Just like on Venus, the high temperatures would boil away all the water. Whatever life you could potentially encounter on this planet, it would need to be able to survive in these brutal conditions. Or it would have to exist somewhere else besides the surface. One place you could discover life on Kepler 69c would be up in the clouds. Around 50 kilometers up, temperatures would be much cooler. They would range from about 30 to 70 degrees Celsius. And with its low density, this planet could have a surface gravity that would be just over 70% of what's found on Earth. This weaker gravity could allow life forms to thrive in the sky, where Kepler 69c is most hospitable. Life could just be floating freely in the atmosphere. This would be another way in which this planet could have far more in common with Venus than with Earth. Probes around Venus have picked up traces of a gas that could be a potential sign of life, phosphine. If you discovered phosphine in Kepler 69c's atmosphere, it could be the result of bacteria that don't require oxygen to survive. But be ready to hold your nose. This smelly gas has an odor similar to decaying fish. On Earth, the bacteria that produce phosphine often live in swamps or wetlands, but on Venus or Kepler 69c, this bacteria could exist in the thick, oxygenless atmosphere itself. So, in the end, you may have traveled a very long way to find the smallest and stinkiest of life forms. Now, on the upside, you've just discovered extraterrestrial life.
Do you ever feel like you're being watched? Not by a creepy stalker, but by aliens. Well, it might be happening. Just like we watch animals at the zoo, aliens may be out there watching us, like we're the zoo animals. But why exactly would they be doing this in the first place? Could they be afraid of us? This is What If. And here's what would happen if we lived in a galactic zoo. Imagine being trapped in a zoo. Well, if we really do live in a galactic zoo, then you'd already be in one. aliens could be out there watching your every move. They may want to study the human race, or learn from our technology. Or maybe they're planning to attack us. But what if instead of attacking us, the aliens are afraid of us attacking them? Wait, what? If you've watched any sort of sci-fi movie, you may think of aliens as the bad guys. The ones who attack our planet and steal all our resources. Hey, shoot, get out of there. Get away, go. But never mind humans being afraid of aliens. They may be afraid of us. Think about it. It's entirely possible that aliens have been watching Earth since the birth of humanity. If aliens have been hanging around since the beginning, think of all the horrible destruction they've seen humans cause. Deforestation, pollution, and let's not forget about war. Lots of war. Humans are constantly trying to kill each other. It's estimated that almost 1 billion people have died from war throughout history. So from the aliens' perspective, humans might seem like an incredibly violent, scary species. They may not want to make contact because they're afraid of how we might react, which could very well be with violence. And while aliens might be watching us, we aren't confined to a zoo. We have left the Earth and gone to the moon. But are we sure that intelligent life is even out there? Well, the odds are pretty good. The existence of alien life could be explained by the Fermi Paradox. We have our sun, but in the universe there are billions of other suns. And they're billions of years older than our solar system. Orbiting these other suns could be Earth-like planets. And on Earth-like planets, there's a good chance of there being highly intelligent life. With so many worlds out there, there's an even better chance that at least one of them has developed interstellar travel. The Fermi Paradox suggests that with interstellar travel, it would take a few million years to travel through the entire Milky Way galaxy. You may think that sounds like an incredibly long time, but if there's a civilization that is billions of years older than us, it would just be a tiny fraction of their history. So, if all this is true, which is very likely, the aliens may have already found us. And apart from us being a pretty violent species, we may not be interesting enough for them to make contact with us. We may just be another life form out of the thousands or millions that the aliens have seen. After all, if you see an ant colony on the ground, do you try to make contact with it? You most likely go along with your day. To other life forms out there, we may just be a simple group of ants. Ants they don't want to hurt or bother. Just observe. Another thing we have to keep in mind is how we communicate with the aliens. Ants in our world might be trying to communicate with us, but unless they send the right signals, we'll never know. The same goes for the aliens and us. We may not be communicating with the aliens the right way. They may not even know that we want to make contact with them, so they just leave us alone.
Attention human, you are receiving an interstellar radio transmission. And it could be coming from one of the nearest exoplanets, Proxima Centauri b. What conditions make this planet a candidate for alien life? What types of civilizations could have flourished there? And should we expect them to be knocking on Earth's door any day now? This is What If, and here's what would happen if there were an alien civilization on Proxima b. At a distance of 4.2 light-years away, Proxima Centauri is one of the closest stars to our Sun. In 2016, a planet was discovered orbiting in Proxima Centauri's Goldilocks zone. That's where conditions for liquid water could exist. Meet Proxima b, a planet that registers at 0.87 on the Earth Similarity Index. This scale measures how similar a planet or moon is to Earth, and anything above 0.8 is considered Earth-like. As another example, Mars has an ESI of 0.64. In 2020, astronomers recorded a mysterious radio signal coming from the direction of Proxima Centauri. Could it be that an alien civilization was attempting to contact us? Though Proxima b is similar to Earth, life forms on this alien planet would likely develop very differently. For starters, the planet is about 20 times closer to its star than Earth is to the Sun. And it only needs 11.2 days for one full revolution. That's a lot of New Year's celebrations. But still, Proxima b receives about the same amount of solar energy as Earth. And that's because Proxima Centauri is an M-type red dwarf star. Compared to our G-type star, these stars are generally cooler, in a range of 2200 to 3200 degrees Celsius. But there would be some extreme conditions that an alien civilization would have to adapt to. These extraterrestrials would need to be able to withstand radiation, and lots of it. The planet receives about 400 times more X-rays than Earth, and dwarf stars like Proxima Centauri give rise to coronal mass ejections that would blast the planet with lethal radiation. Without a protective atmosphere, this would be deadly for any potential life forms. Another challenge for a Proxima b civilization would be tidal locking. That's when a planet takes the same amount of time to spin on its axis as it does to orbit its star. Imagine living where you permanently face the scorching sun while the other side of the Earth is in a constant state of frozen darkness. This is what life would be like on this exoplanet. Civilizations on Proxima b would likely develop in the so-called terminator zones. These are the strips of twilight between the day side and the night side. Here, winds would carry warm air and create life-supporting conditions. And aliens would build thermal reactors with the mix of cool and hot water to have that H2O always available. But if civilizations appeared on either of the sides of the Terminator Zone, they'd need to develop different survival tactics. But collaboration and unity could allow them to supply each other with heat or ice effectively. And if a civilization developed on the light side, would they even know that there were other stars or objects in the universe? Would they even think about other life out in space? That brings us back to the radio signal the Breakthrough Listen project recorded in 2020. This signal occupied a very narrow band of the radio spectrum at 982 megahertz. This is startling because it's a portion of the spectrum rarely used by human-made transmitters. Researchers haven't ruled out the possibility that these signals originated on Earth, but there are many unanswered questions. One thing they're sure of, it didn't come from a natural world. Only manufactured or alien-made technology seems to produce signals like that. So, if an advanced civilization was trying to communicate with us from Proxima b, what would their society be like? They could be a Type 1 civilization like us and use the energy available from their planet, like oil, wind, or geothermal power. Or they could be a Type 2 civilization, using energy on the scale of their planetary system. That would mean they were thousands of years more advanced than us. Would they have developed complex languages and live in cities? Would they have democratic forms of governance? Or would they live under the rule of a dictator? You must have so many questions for our alien neighbors, and they would have so many questions for you. Or maybe they already know everything. Unfortunately, we likely won't be able to visit them anytime soon. Using current technologies, it would still take between 19,000 and 81,000 years to reach them. Of course, maybe they could travel faster than the speed of light and get here first. And Who knows what would happen when they finally get here?
"120 light years away from us, there's an exoplanet that can potentially host life. It's called K2-18b, and it's a world you'd want to visit. K2-18b isn't exactly like Earth, it's more like a super Earth. Yeah, it's 2.6 times larger and almost 9 times more massive than our planet. Scientists think it could be a Haitian exoplanet, which is just a fancy way of saying that it likely has a hydrogen-rich atmosphere and is covered in liquid ocean. That means that K2-18b could be home to alien life. Only it would take a really long time to get there. If you were hurtling toward this space rock from Earth, you'd reach your destination in about 1.3 million years. Yeah, you heard right. Million. K2-18b has a lot of methane and carbon dioxide in its atmosphere. That's not exactly breathable air, so you'd still need a spacesuit to walk on this world. And I wouldn't be too hyped up about its ocean either. If an exoplanet has liquid on it, it doesn't mean that the liquid is water. It could be methane or ammonia, even acid. Like, even in our own solar system, there's a moon covered in liquid lakes, but these are methane and ethane lakes, and I wouldn't recommend swimming there. K2-18b could have a pretty mild temperature. For an exoplanet, that is. At minus 100 degrees Celsius, you'd find this world incredibly cold. Now, the most exciting thing we've found out about this world is that it could have traces of dimethyl sulfide. Woot woot! Well, on Earth, this molecule can only be produced by living things, and that means K2-18b could be home to alien life. Now, it doesn't mean that this life would be intelligent. It could be aquatic or microbial. Maybe even complex life if the conditions for it are just right. We won't know for sure unless we travel to explore this interstellar world. Now, how do we know all this? Well, we had the James Webb Space Telescope look at this distant world and take detailed measurements of its atmosphere. Most of the exoplanets have been discovered using what's called the transit method. It's when a planet passes in front of its star and blocks its starlight. That's when scientists study the wavelengths around the planets, and some of those wavelengths can tell us what kind of atmosphere those distant planets have. The problem is, exoplanets are really far away. Trying to figure out what their surfaces are like just by peering through even our most powerful telescopes is not easy. Some scientists will argue that K2-18b isn't a super Earth at all, but a mini Neptune. And that's a bummer because, as you know, Neptune is an ice giant. And if K2-18b is also an ice giant, then the chances for alien life on this planet don't look so good. Now, you don't have a million years to travel to this world to discover it for yourself, so maybe we should look at a world that's a lot closer to Earth. Like Proxima Centauri b. Proxima Centauri is the closest star we've discovered, only 4.2 light years away from Earth. It's part of the Alpha Centauri star system, with not 2 but 3 stars orbiting each other. The exoplanet Proxima Centauri b orbits only one of these stars, but you'll still see the other 2 stars as bright dots in the sky. This exoplanet is slightly larger than Earth and revolves uncomfortably close to its host star. Luckily, that star is a red dwarf, and that's much cooler and smaller than our sun. Which is good news because that means this planet isn't getting toasted like Mercury. Scientists estimate Proxima Centauri b has an average temperature of about minus 39 degrees Celsius. That's pretty comfortable as far as alien worlds go. The bad news is that we still don't know much about the exoplanet's gravity or atmosphere. It might be our best candidate to set up an interstellar base, but it also could have a harsh environment, unsuitable for humanity's future home. It might even have an ocean of acid, or something deadly like that. The only way to find out is to travel there. And if Proxima Centauri b doesn't work out, well, don't worry, there are plenty of potentially habitable worlds out there. Like this one. Ross 128b is 11 light-years from Earth. It's the second closest potentially habitable world scientists have discovered. And it's more promising than Proxima Centauri b. The thing is, they both orbit red dwarf stars. Only Proxima b's host star is a lot more active and violent. It occasionally erupts and bathes Proxima b in radiation. Ross 128b's star is nice and quiet. And even though this world orbits 20 times closer to its star than Earth is to the Sun, it still lies in the habitable zone. Because like I said, red dwarfs are way cooler than the Sun. And by cooler, I just mean temperature. This world could have a balmy average temperature of 23 degrees Celsius. That's only slightly hotter than the average temperature here on Earth. I don't know about you, but I could settle there. Now, we don't know enough about this world to call it our new home. It likely has lots of harmful radiation reaching its surface, and its atmosphere might not be breathable. But hey, that's not much worse than Mars. With efficient life support systems in place, we could make it work. Besides, this super Earth might have its own life on it. If Ross 128b did have alien life, it could be extremely different from what you might imagine. Just think about making the first contact with an alien species. What would that be like? I mean, it could go very wrong, too. For one, we might not survive the trip to any exoplanets, even the nearest ones. So far, we've discovered and confirmed over 5,000 alien worlds. 63 of them are potentially habitable, but we just can't know for sure. Europa, the icy moon of Jupiter. A frigid world that would turn you into an astronaut popsicle. And an atmosphere that would take your breath away. Literally. Because Europa's atmosphere is so thin, it's almost non-existent. And while it's mostly made up of oxygen, this oxygen isn't breathable for you. You just wouldn't be able to inhale it in this extremely low-pressure environment. And this frozen world has a dark secret. Deep under its thick crust of ice, it might just hide life. That's why we're sending a member of our team on a mission to explore Europa and find out if anything can survive in this unforgiving environment. Chase, we need you on this one-way trip to Jupiter's neighborhood.
Mission Control, this is Chase, orbiting Europa and ready for landing. Did you know it would actually take you like 6 years to get here from Earth? But luckily, I'm already here, and I love finding new alien buddies when they're not trying to kill me.
All right, Chase. Initiate the landing sequence.
Already on it. Rico, start the landing sequence. I totally forgot.
Landing sequence initiated. 500 meters and descending. 400 meters. 100. Touchdown confirmed.
Oh, it's bright. It's bright. Oh, my eyeballs.
That's strange. Europa is 5 times farther from the sun than Earth and gets much less sunlight than we do. It must be so bright because of Europa's icy surface. All that ice is highly reflective.
That, plus an almost absent atmosphere, could make the light feel very harsh. So just use the protective tinted visor and your eyes will be fine. Chase, what's your status?
Yeah, I'd say Europa's pretty similar to Earth. If Earth had no atmosphere, was covered in ice, and had absolutely no interesting oceans to see. So in short, it sucks, what if guy. I'm freezing out here.
Yeah, you'd need an advanced thermal insulation layer in your suit to keep you warm. The surface temperature on Europa is about minus 145 degrees Celsius, and it can get as cold as minus 220 degrees Celsius. It's also bathed in radiation. That's because Europa orbits so close to Jupiter, and Jupiter has a massive magnetic field that traps a lot of high-energy particles inside it. Your spacesuit would need to be able to withstand that, too.
Great.
Europa is one of the 4 largest moons of Jupiter. It's still slightly smaller than our moon, but it's a lot more exciting. Mainly because it has the potential to host life.
Looks pretty lifeless, if you ask me.
Well, it is, on the surface. Look, life needs 3 ingredients to exist on any world. The first one is liquid water. Well, Europa has plenty of that. NASA's Galileo spacecraft, which spent 8 years orbiting Jupiter, gathered some data on Europa too. And that data led scientists to believe that this moon has twice as much water as all of Earth's oceans.
Well, I regret to report that your scientist data is wrong. I don't see no water, only ice. This mission is a waste of my precious time.
No, it isn't. You don't see them because these enormous oceans aren't on the surface. They're deep below Europa's thick, icy crust. That brings us to another ingredient for life: energy. On Earth, life mostly gets energy from the sun, but that's not the case on Europa. First of all, because Europa is so far away from the sun, and secondly, because if there is life on Europa, it's likely we'd find it under the ice, where there's no sunlight at all. Europa gets its energy from the effects of tidal heating, and it has Jupiter to thank for that. Yeah, the enormous gravity of the solar system's biggest planet is constantly pulling on Europa, bulging and cracking its ice. This causes friction, and the friction heats this moon from the inside. That's why Europa's subsurface ocean doesn't freeze over like the rest of this frigid world. Europa might also have hydrothermal vents on its ocean floor, just like Earth does. These vents spew out heat, energy, and chemicals, potentially creating a habitable environment around them. The last ingredient for life is chemical elements. Most living things are made up of stuff like carbon, hydrogen, nitrogen, oxygen, phosphorus, and sulfur. And based on the data we collected about Europa, this moon's got all that. But of course, no one has ever been on Europa to confirm this. Until now.
And what's that?
Yeah, those are Europa's famous cryovolcanoes. These volcanoes don't erupt with lava, but with water and ice.
Ice volcanoes? That's sick! Oh my god. Okay. So, how do you suggest I find life here? This ice looks thick.
Yeah, you'd have to drill through it. And you'd need special equipment, like a high-performance drill designed for extreme cold, electrically powered by a portable nuclear generator, lightweight with a heating mechanism and a sample retrieval system.
Right, great. So just like the everyday stuff that you would just happen to carry around with you on your spaceship. No, I'm serious. I happen to have that on my spaceship. I have the best drill in the universe. I'm so excited to meet who's down here.
Oh, hold on. The chances of seeing any kind of life with your own eyes are slim. Because that life, if it exists, is likely microscopic. But if you get a sample of that salty water, well, you can examine it and maybe find traces of microorganisms.
That's not how I pictured this mission, but since we're here, let's do this.
While you can't improve the odds of seeing aliens on Europa, you can increase the opportunity of seeing more of Chase's epic adventures on What If. We've already traveled with him to Titan, Venus, even Uranus, and there's so much more we want to show you. That's why we launched our What If Explorers Club on Patreon. That's where we give you the top secret behind the scenes, extended director's cuts, mind-blowing art, epic merch discounts, and our endless love and gratitude. Support us on Patreon to get exclusive content and help us send Chase to his death over and over and over again.
Hey! I don't feel so good. I think I might puke.
Your body temperature is rising. You're experiencing the symptoms of radiation poisoning.
I did warn you that radiation levels on Europa are high. Even in your spacesuit, you'd still feel headaches, nausea, dizziness, all the fun that comes from radiation sickness. And all that after spending only a few hours on this moon. If you don't return to your shielded spacecraft immediately, this exposure will kill you.
Huh? Oh, no. I'm fine now. I'm good, Rico. I just need to lie down for 5 minutes.
That's a bad idea. You need to return the samples to the spaceship.
Right. The samples. I have to get the samples. This is still so sick, though.
The impact force from the cryovolcano has damaged your spacesuit. You're losing oxygen.
I should have subscribed to the top tier of What If's Patreon.
In the extreme conditions of Europa, without the full protection of a suit, you'd only have a few minutes to get to safety. In just 1 minute, severe frostbite would damage your exposed skin. After 2 minutes, you'd start shivering. Cue hypothermia. Another 10 minutes later, and you'd lose consciousness and freeze to death. Oh, wait, scratch all that. Looks like Chase's suit lost all the oxygen and he just suffocated. Now we'll never know if those samples had any life in them. Is alien life really out there? Humanity has wondered about it for decades. And according to scientists, it might finally be a reality. Astronomers have discovered there could be life on Venus. Does this mean we finally meet aliens? Could this help us discover other aliens? And what does this discovery mean for us? This is What If, and here's what would happen if there's life on Venus. Venus might not be as alien as you think. The planet is roughly the same size as Earth, and its gravity is 91% of our planet's. We always talk about Mars being a potential home for humans, but we shouldn't count out Venus either. And if there is life on the planet, could this speed up our process of making it our new home? First, let's look into why exactly scientists think there might be life on Venus. It all has to do with phosphine. This is a colorless, flammable, and explosive gas that's also pretty stinky. It smells like a mix of garlic and decaying fish. Ugh. This gas can be found on Earth, and it's dangerous to everything that uses oxygen to survive. It was used as a chemical weapon during World War I and is a byproduct of cooking methamphetamine. Yeah, this gas is not very pleasant, and it can be extremely deadly, but now astronomers have found that phosphine might be in Venus's atmosphere. At first glance, this might seem like a terrible thing because this gas kills anything that breathes oxygen. But that doesn't mean that life can't exist. Just because something doesn't require oxygen doesn't mean it's completely lifeless. Inside Venus's clouds of phosphine, there could be anaerobic bacteria. These are organisms that don't require oxygen to survive. They could be living on Venus, producing this phosphine gas. keep in mind that all of this is not fully verified yet, but astronomers have been keeping an eye on Venus for nearly all of 2020, and this is what they think they've discovered. So, if this type of alien life really did exist on Venus, what would it mean for us humans? Well, when you first hear about alien life, you probably think about Martians with big heads and us being able to shake their hands, but that wouldn't be possible with these life forms on Venus. As it stands right now, we wouldn't be able to see any of the life on Venus with our naked eye. It's all bacteria and microbes. And with all that potential phosphine on the planet, it makes visiting Venus more dangerous for humans than ever. So, will we be meeting this life form anytime soon? Probably not. Is this discovery still incredibly exciting? Absolutely. And sure, it's discouraging that we haven't found Martians yet, but try not to be too disappointed. When discovering potential alien life, we should remember to expand our ideas about what exactly these alien life forms could be. They don't necessarily have to be something with 2 or 4 legs that humans are able to interact with. The possibilities for potential alien life are endless. Things we can't even imagine yet. And who knows what this current life form could turn into? It may start small, but in millions of years, we might see Venus bloom into a planet full of organic life. And life on Venus might not be limited to organisms living in phosphine gas either. Experts think that due to all the extreme climates on the planet, life could form almost anywhere. And that goes for the rest of the solar system too. With scientists discovering potential life on Venus, who knows what else is out there? Researchers will just have to keep searching to find out. Speaking of researchers, one of the lead scientists who made this exciting Venus discovery is on this week's What If Discussed. We sit down with Dr. Sarah Seeger to talk about how she found this potential life on Venus and what exactly it means for other life in the solar system. Check it out.